A hazard mapping, resilience assessment framework, and online platform that evaluates location-specific natural disaster-related risks for a real estate project or portfolio and provides the resilience solutions necessary for improvement. The first index of its kind, Building Resilience Index, provides a common language for various stakeholders, including developers, owners, financial institutions, investors, insurers, and governments. To assess, manage, and disclose the resilience of buildings. Let us be the architects of a more resilient future. We have all the solutions we need today through Building Resilience Index. With climate change, natural disasters are on the rise. Affecting the safety, habitability, and financial future of our cities and buildings. Rapidly urbanizing areas in developing countries are often the most vulnerable. A proactive, systemic approach to develop resilient buildings can improve the general standard of our built environment. The solution is Building Resilience Index, a hazard mapping, resilience assessment framework, and online platform that evaluates location-specific, natural disaster-related risks for a real estate project or portfolio and provides the resilience solutions necessary for improvement. The first index of its kind, Building Resilience Index, provides a common language for various stakeholders, including developers, owners, financial institutions, investors, insurers, and governments. To assess, manage, and disclose the resilience of buildings. Let us be the architects of a more resilient future. We have all the solutions we need today through Building Resilience Index.
Hello po. Hello po, Sir Donway, C. Hello, sir. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, sir. Sir, while we're good morning. Sir,
Morning.
can we try, sir, your do you have a PowerPoint? Okay,
Yes, let
is it okay
me
if we
test
try
it now.
the
Okay, hold
video,
on.
please? Video is okay. Audio is okay for us
Okay,
from our end. So
let me test
may you
it.
try your
Share. Do I click replace current share to test it?
pa-share daw si Sir Donway. Panelist na si sir.
Let me see here. Okay, how do I find them? Oops.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
is that visible?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Sir, is there a possibility to have a copy of your PowerPoint as well?
yep,
So we can back
I've
up.
sent it to Pearl.
Ah.
Or how do I send it?
So far she hasn't provided any a copy.
Okay, because
Oops.
I just sent it to her on Viber now.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Her Viber, or is it okay if you send it via chat directly to the secretariat team?
How do I send it
Just drag the copy to the chat box.
right now? Okay.
And then send it to the host. All right. All right. Good morning, everyone. I know you've been hearing us for a few minutes now, but welcome to this important webinar on the Building Resilience Index, a risk mitigation tool in funding investments for resilient infrastructure. This event is proudly in observance of the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, or IDDRR 2025, under this year's inspiring theme, Fund Resilience, Not Disaster. I am Hannah Escamilla, Senior Program Manager of Arise Philippines, your MC for today's session. Happening this October 28, 2025, via Zoom teleconferencing. This webinar is spearheaded by Arise Philippines in partnership with NEO and the International Finance Corporation, or IFC. Next slide, please. Yeah. So we would like to extend our warm greetings to all our participants, distinguished guests, experts, stakeholders, and partners joining us today. Special thanks, of course, to our event partners, SM Prime Holdings, the Australian Aid, DM Wenceslau and Associates, Incorporated, Bamberton Development Corporation, Habitat for Humanity, and various supporters committed to advancing resilient infrastructures in the Philippines and beyond. So before we begin this momentous occasion, let us now have a group photo documentation to commemorate this special gathering. Please join us in capturing this moment together. This will just be applicable, so we apologize for the panelists. Kindly open your cameras and smile for the next 10 seconds or shorter. Kindly, okay. May we request all our speakers, panelists to join us. So this will be your list of resource speakers for today. So smile, please, for the next 10 seconds. 10. We'll wait for the rest. Sir Anthony, Ali, Miss Pearl. Can you kindly open your cameras? Miss Pearl and Anthony, Ali. Okay, Pearl, we see you. Architect Anthony, can you open your camera? Okay, let's start. Let's take a photo. Smile. 10, 9. Okay, there it is. There you go. 10, 9, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thank you so much. You may now close your cameras. So before we begin, here are some few housekeeping reminders to all our panelists, participants rather. So kindly update your Zoom display name with your company or organization by indicating your full name. Example would be Arise Philippines and then Hannah Escamilla. Also, please sign the registration link that we have provided days back, as it will serve as your attendance record. Next slide, please. The Zoom session capacity is just 300, but for some reason we get to have 400 today. Participants, so please log in early. During some sessions, you will be allowed to unmute and engage with speakers. For those who have multiple participants, you may utilize just one Zoom account and then ensure you just have to ensure that you get to register your name separately for individual certificates. Then next, please use the QA box to type in your questions. This will be addressed during the allocated question and answer session. And of course, certificates of participation for this event will be issued after you have completed the evaluation forms, of which the link and the QR code will be provided at the end of the event. Okay, that's pretty much it. Now, to officially commence our program, may I now call on behalf of our co-chairperson of Arise Philippines and the Vice President for Corporate Compliance Group of SM Supermalls to deliver the welcome remarks. Let me call on our Executive Director, Dr. Joseph P. Bacaresa. Doc Bac.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hannah. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Arise Philippines and our co-chair, Engineer Lisa Bisilerio, we'll extend our heartfelt greetings and warmest welcome to all participants of the 2025 Building Resilience Index BRI's webinar. This webinar is a significant milestone that underscores our collective commitment to shifting from reactive disaster recovery to proactive resilience building through innovation, collaboration, and knowledge sharing. I congratulate the International Finance Corporation, the NEO, our partners including SM Prime Holdings, the Government of Australia, Bamberton, Habitat for Humanity, and all stakeholders whose unwavering dedication has driven the successful implementation and ongoing promotion of the BRI. Through your efforts, we have leveraged this pioneering science-based tool to assess, improve, and disclose building resilience, enabling smarter, risk-informed investment decisions that protect lives, livelihoods, and economic development. At Arise, we see the BRI not just as a rating system, but as an essential driver for transforming how the private sector, our banks, insurers, and developers approach infrastructure resilience. By quantifying risks and offering mitigation pathways, the BRI bridges the gap between funding and resilience verification, making the case that investing in resilient buildings it is not a cost but a strategic investment that leads to reduced losses, less downtime, and better financing opportunities. May today's program remind us that building resilience is a continuous journey, one that demands innovation, partnership, and a shared sense of responsibility. As we open this webinar, let us ignite more discussions, foster stronger alliances, and inspire meaningful action nationwide. Let us continue to listen to the call of resilience. Let it guide our collective efforts in building communities and economies that can withstand future challenges. Maraming salamat po and welcome to the Building Resilience Index Webinar 2025. Back to you, Ms. Hannah.
Thank you so much, Doc Bacaresa, for that inspiring opening message. Now to proceed, please join me in welcoming Mr. Omid Saberi to the virtual stage. Mr. Saberi is the global lead for the Building Resilience Index program at IFC and has been instrumental in developing this innovative hazard mapping and resilience assessment tool. His insights will help us understand exactly how BRI functions and its potential impact on strengthening our infrastructure resilience. So to provide us the overview on Building Resilience Index, may I call on the global leader for the Building Resilience Index program of the International Finance Corporation, Mr. Omid Saberi. Omid?
Excellent. Thank you, Anna. And thank you, everyone, for joining this webinar. It's extremely meaningful for us to be here and present in this webinar with our team in Philippines Philippines is very special to us because we started the Building Resilience Index program here, and now this program is becoming a global program. My special thanks to Arise team. Arise has been our first and foremost important partner in resilience, investment in resilience. I'm also thankful to NEO's team and all the clients here that we have been working with, multiple clients. I will display the details later. I also want to thank Australian government for their support for Building Resilience Index program. Our program wouldn't be where it is without their support. So I'm gonna share my slides and talk through few elements on Building Resilience Index. So the Building Resilience Index, what we have been seeing is that it's a program that we have developed to, just give me a second to make sure that I'm sharing the right screen. Right, so the Building Resilience Index program has been a program that IFC, part of the World Bank Group, has started development back in 2020 and 21. And this program has grown from the Philippines now becoming a global program. One of the key elements that we want to discuss today is that how do we finance resilience? And financing resilience is critical because as IFC, as an investment entity, what we want to make sure happens is that when the financing goes to projects, it improves the resilience of those projects. Why do we need to improve the resilience? To save lives, to save assets and lives. And that's really critical for our program. So how do we define resilience? IFC's definition of resilient buildings has been two simple elements. One is that a building can withstand the natural and climate hazards, and when it's exposed to, but also it's important for the asset to continue its operations without disturbing. And we know, we will hear from NEO and other market leaders that why business disruption is as critical as resilience of the assets. These two goes hand to hand. So protecting lives and businesses and assets. That's the key message behind the BRI. This is a beautiful photo of Metro Manila. So if you want to figure out what BRI is trying to do, what is the key element? If you look at the market players, if you start from the top level, government, international organizations, MDBs, and donors, we have Government of Australia here, Government of Philippines, we have IFC and World Bank as multilateral development banks. We provide support to the market. The second level is that we need to ensure that there are engineers and verification providers trained to support resilience. Obviously, we have structural engineers, civil engineers, and other engineers, but we need to bring the resilience to their agenda, top to their agenda. When we look at the market players like construction developer and the bank loan officers, the local banks and international banks, homeowners and building owners, and then finally also insurance officers. They all need to understand what resilience means and how do they measure and follow up on resilience. Each of them obviously talk about resilience maybe in different languages, right? For example, if you talk to the construction developers, they may say that we already meet the building codes, so we don't need to do anything. The loan officers may say that because the building has the building permit, we don't need to do anything. That's okay. The homeowner, they don't really understand whether their buildings are resilient or not, so they just may follow what is on the market for sale, and they go and buy those houses or rent those places. And finally, insurance officers, they want to insure and underwrite the assets, but they may not know what's the difference between two office buildings in the center of Metro Manila? How do we define which one of these two buildings are more resilient? And that's where Building Resilience Index comes, so that everyone have the same measurement tool to measure how we can define resilience across the value chain. And with this, then we can bring better financing, better insurance, better incentives from different players to the market. What IFC has been doing, IFC has been developing the Building Resilience Index application as a free and available tool to everybody. And that's with thanks to our donors, we want to ensure that this application is freely available to the market so that it's not a burden for engineers and also building owners to go through that assessment. We also provide the financial institution support. So if there are banks that they are interested, we would be happy to work in advisory or investment capacity with the banks. We also do investments directly in the building sector from IFC. And finally, we like to work with governments, with RIs. We have been meeting with government of Philippines on how do we bring incentives and better codes to support resilience. And that's a holistic program of IFC's Building Resilience Index. Some people may see Building Resilience Index as an online application, but this is not only the online application. Online application is a piece of this puzzle. What is on the online application? If you look at the online application, it has three key elements, and these three elements together defines the whole process of any project. Number one, we provide the hazard screening for investor decision, but also for builders and designers. That hazard screening continue to build the hazard layers. We already have 14 hazard layers, and we continue to develop those programs so that everyone has access to hazard layers. In the hazard layers, we included climate change scenarios, so you can look at climate change scenarios by 2050 and 2080, and that will give you a good access to data. If you look at the UNEP data, we see that in Asia, there is 83% of insurance gap. So it means that there's a huge insurance gap, meaning that if any event happens, people will be paying out of their own pockets or out of business pocket to recover, which is not an ideal scenario to be. The second element is that once we know what are the hazard conditions, then we need to figure out how we improve our building against those hazards. And that's the risk reduction measures given for site selection, building foundation, structure, facade, and other elements. And we know that for every dollar that we invest in resilience, we can save at least $4 on cost of damages. In 2024, there was $320 billion of losses. Just compare that to our total IFC investments. Last year, total IFC investment was around $70 billion globally in all countries. So $320 billion of loss. It's a massive, it's almost 6 times bigger than IFC's global investment. So it's not enough for us to emphasize how important it is to invest in resilience. And the last piece is verification. So once the projects go through this step 1 and step 2, it's important to have a third-party verification so that investors and insurance companies, they have confidence to come and invest in these assets. We have been working with Bureau Veritas and RINA, two verification providers. We also have been working with Marsh and QBE, two insurance providers, risk engineers, as well as insurance providers to support using these verification, third-party verification. What are the hazards? Very briefly, we are looking at 4 categories of wind, water, fire, and geoseismic elements. Some of them cover climate agenda, some of them also cover beyond climate. So fire and geoseismic goes beyond. We also have the operational continuity on how do we define, if the infrastructure fails, how do we define our buildings to continue operation. The hazard maps are being continuously upgraded. Now, if you click on a specific location, for example, when you click on this specific location in Metro Manila, you would see all the quantitative numbers for different elements. For example, on this location, there would be 75 centimeter of flood. If you have that data, you can then engineer your building to that flood conditions or storm or earthquake. So that's very important for us to provide that data for engineers. Once you have that data, then engineers then need to know, if I have this flood, what do I need to do to design my building against that flood? And that's where the measures comes in. So these are the measures that provides support to protect the building against those different types of hazards that apply to that location. In terms of the assets, what type of assets we can certify? The assets can be from residential, offices, retail, hotels, and resorts. Actually, from IFC point of view, we have a lot of interest in hotels and resorts because of job creation and ensuring that we support economic development here in the Philippines and also in other countries. This is also important for critical infrastructure like schools and hospitals, universities, also for industrial sector, for warehouses, industrial, mixed use, airports and ports. So it covers all types of assets. I wanted to provide maybe 3 case studies here as investments. So as IFC, we are an investor in different asset classes. I start with the investment that we did in Mexico. In Mexico, we invested in Vinter, which is the largest affordable housing developer in Mexico. They have done all their projects with EDGE certification. Also now they started to implement BRI for all their new projects in Mexico. This has been a long relationship between IFC and Vinter that continues to evolve. Started with EDGE, now they are implementing BRI to their site selection. So when they select a site, they use BRI to ensure the site is safe. Then when there's a design, they apply that for the design and having it verified for their investment. The second one is Ayala Land, client here in the Philippines, and obviously a market leader here in the Philippines. IFC has done 2 investments on zero carbon and EDGE certification of the assets. And the latest one also includes BRI verification, assessment and verification of number of their assets. We did this investment just recently in 2025. And we are very excited to continue collaborating with Ayala Land and other clients here in the Philippines to continue investment in this asset class. This third example is Brookfield, is a real estate investment trust in India. One of the big players in India and globally. Brookfield is quite known. We have been investing in the assets in the India market, and they are going to include EDGE and BRI in their new projects when they are designing or retrofitting their new projects. Last year, IFC did in total $600 million of investment that included BRI assessment and verification. In terms of where we are with BRI right now, obviously Philippines has been our starting point. We expanded to all regions. You would see that we have projects now in Vietnam, in India, in Africa, in Mozambique, and South Africa, in Latin America, and in the Caribbean. We also, Angelo and Benjamin, our team, and Pearl are looking at expanding the project to Pacific Islands as well. We have been talking to clients in Pacific Islands as well, how we can support those islands. And again, thanks to our donor DFAT that supported us to expand our program to Pacific Islands as well. In terms of our, if we talk about investment, we need to talk about investment and insurance hand to hand. And that has been one of our key achievements recently, that we started collaborating with QBE, one of the largest insurance providers in Asia, and also with Marsh. And that's really important for us to support clients with insurance as well. We are now piloting projects with them. How do we support with Building Resilience Index? We also signed with Bureau Veritas as our verification provider and RINA to provide trusted verification to the local market. We also have local individual verifiers right now that they are also supporting clients here in the Philippines. With that, I'm gonna end. I wanted to make sure that if you can follow us, follow Building Resilience Index on LinkedIn, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to us on bri@ifc.org, and we will be happy to support you and help you with the next steps. This is the donors that supported our program, also our partners like Arise and other partners that supported this program development. I encourage you to sign in to Building Resilience Index and register there, and you can register an account and you can test any project for free at no charge. Thank you so much, and hand it over back to you, Hannah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saberi, for that comprehensive overview of the Building Resilience Index. Your insights highlight how this tool can be a game changer in promoting resilient construction practices and smarter investment decisions across sectors. Now we will hear from esteemed industry leaders who have been at the forefront of applying the Building Resilience Index at real-world projects. First, we have architect Anthony L. Iliaga, the division head for planning and design at DM Wenceslao and Associate Incorporated. With over 17 years of multidisciplinary experience spanning architectural and urban design, environmental planning, and sustainable development, architect Iliaga brings a wealth of strategic leadership. As head of planning for the iconic Asiana City, mixed-use development in Manila, he integrates innovative design with environmental resiliency, championing sustainable, world-class developments. He is a registered architect, environmental planner, and certified Berde District professional dedicated in embedding resilience and quality in every project. Now, please join me in welcoming architect Anthony Iliaga to share insights from his team's implementation of BRI. Architect?
Hi, good morning.
Good
Let me share my
morning.
presentation.
Okay, sir, we can see it.
Hold on.
So while we are waiting for the PowerPoint presentation, may I remind everyone that you are allowed to ask anytime during the sessions. There will be a separate question and answer portion or session later, but we have an application for the question and answer available here in Zoom. So you can type in your questions, clarification from the discussion from OMID and moving forward. Architect Anthony? Also, for those who have been asking to open their camera, apologies, but this is a conference type of teleconferencing. So we will need you to be promoted as panelists, and we do plan to use that at the end of the event so everyone can join in. So for the meantime, we would like you to just sit down and relax as we hear some of the discussions pertaining BRI. Architect Anthony, are we good?
Hi.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah, good morning. Let me start by saying thank you for giving opportunity to discuss our company's initiatives for resiliency. I'm Anthony, again, as mentioned, and will be presenting on behalf of our CEO, Mr. Bods Wenceslao. So just to give a background of the company, for those who didn't know, we started as a construction company way back 1965, currently having at least 50 years of diversified experience. We gradually evolved into real estate company. We had 3 residential condos, 13 commercial buildings, almost 140 projects constructed. We also are a quadruple A contractor, and we're also publicly listed. Across the value chain, we are vertically integrated. We do everything from construction, land reclamation, land sales and leasing, property development, and commercial developments. So everything we would need to plan, build, operate Asiana City is done within the company. This presentation is about Parcal, our flagship project, but we want to give you a context and background of Asiana City and how these developments came to be, especially on strategic tools and standards that build resilience and reduce future risks. This is Asiana City way back 1980s without any reclamation that's pictured on the left. On the right is the latest drone shot of Asiana City. 200-hectare development indicates a massive improvement in architecture, urban planning, and real estate development. Previously, it used to be just location and location when it comes to property development. Now, another mantra, which is convenience and public mobility, must be uttered along with location. At this map, there are major transport infrastructure within and nearby Asiana City. Asiana City is also a 30-minute drive towards traditional CBDs of Makati and BGC, and at least 7-minute drive to 3 major airports of Metro Manila. This Asiana City showing existing locators having a balance of mixed-use development. You can also see integrated gaming sector or the Pagcors Entertainment City on the development of Purple Hatches. Soler, City of Dreams, Okada, and West Side City. So with that, we're building commercial and residential anchors to feed these MICE developments. So for us, when we look at the major thesis of our projects, for us, what makes a great city is enhancing and protecting the public realm. This is the latest drone shot of Asiana City, and as a quadruple A contractor, we take pride in being able to execute what our management executive envisioned, especially on pedestrianized streets and resiliency on mixed-use township. We've been researching for local and global standards that is applicable to vernacular setting, and this is a photorealistic of what we want to achieve. This is the product of prioritizing pedestrian with intersection, pinch points, bike lanes, buffer zones, and dedicated drop-off zones. Incorporating defined elements from both local and international guidelines, we've implemented measures to ensure the best possible pedestrian experience. There's a lot to talk about, but we want to highlight Parcal. This is our first mixed-use development, and we'll briefly discuss the inspiration that brought it to life. By the way, if you see QR codes, feel free to access using your smartphones, and you'll be able to experience through our app. So around 2015, we were building high-density projects surrounding the estate, massive office footprint, high capacity requirements with the same building height and mostly dense. And looking at the typology of the management and what we want to do, I think for us, what we wanted to execute, it hasn't been fully executed in Manila, was the walkable main street. So this is Parcal. Parcal is a fun blend of park and calle, reflecting our culture where retail is an integral part of public spaces. As a walkable main street spanning from Macapagal to Diokno Boulevard, Parcal is designed to weave, connect, and intersect the entirety of Asiana City. It's composed of 9 interconnected buildings, 4 stories of which ground floor and third and fourth. So this figures clearly demonstrate our firm commitment to achieving openness in 1,000 square meters of fitness activities, 12,000 linear greenway converted to open space, and 2,000 square meters of jogging path. In terms of the design, Parcal is central gathering place. It's perfectly positioned at the heart of the estate. On a broader scale, it stands as the vibrant core of Asiana City. Of course, feel free to access the QR codes using your smartphones. In terms of where the design came from, we incorporated our culture and heritage. Parcal's facade is inspired by Bahay na Bato and traditional materials of wood, stone, and steel, which are highlighted by the excavated facade that created the open spaces. The urban concept is inspired by the plazas from the Spanish colonial era. So let's face it, it's either hot or wet in Manila. So one of the major things we wanted to change was to ensure that the project, being another development, be climate protected and resilient. So how do we solve it? Create a roof cover, but on another level. We've researched coming from Belgium, from Singapore, and Nagano in Japan, and clearly climate protection is number one. Every angle, facade material, building fenestration to roofing volumetrics, we have worked with multiple iteration. This render versus actual shot shows the details of the design communication. Clearly one of the major highlights of Parcal. Numerous wind tunnel tests have been examined, materials tested, profile developed, and what we have is the massive ETFE roofing for weather protection. That is ethylene tetrafluoroethylene. It's a fluorine-based plastic, an alternative material to glass. This photo highlights the innovative architecture and engineering solutions used to address the challenges of the floating ETFE roof, creating openness and a sense of place. By this means, lessening the solar heat gain to at least 70 to 80% during midday. So through collaboration with the IFC and Building Resiliency Index and its verification status reporting, we've been able to further strengthen our initiatives and identify better scenarios to enhance resilience within the flagship project. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, but we'll be focusing on prerequisites that greatly impacts memory. For water and wind, our initiatives are well aligned for the assessment procedures. As discussed, open areas of about 12,000 square meters of permeable green spaces, wind analysis alignment with the National Structural Code of the Philippines standard requirements. We're now also reinforcing re-verification to ensure full alignment with local conditions and strengthen overall resilience. In reference to fire, we standardized fire stopping system. Parcal uses fire-rated materials designed to maintain wall and floor integrity, preventing the spread of flame, smoke, and heat through the joints and penetrations. For geoseismic standpoint, the building's foundation uses driven piles tested for its strength and stability. Each pile is hammered to refusal, ensuring maximum load capacity and ground resistance. For us, the internal design team, the management group, the future proof is to look ahead, is to face change with solutions to protect and empower. At Asiana City, through directive of the management, we're acting now. We are actually strengthening our systems, achieving district certification, drainage improvements, flood mitigation strategy, and working hand in hand with government, ensuring our developments serve the greater public realm. Co-equally important, we work on these 9 credits of the Philippine Green Building Council. We've also completed WELL certification to make sure it's health safety rated. By incorporating energy systems, sustainable materials, innovative green technologies, Pragat got the highest rating for Verde certification, and these commitments reflect our dedication to meeting modern standards for environmental responsibility and resiliency. These are the finishing touches that set Parcal apart, showcasing the work done in creating new experience for citizens. We take pride in local and global recognition that the project has ever received. Finally, our entire organization takes immense pride in receiving the global recognition through the Prix Versailles. The Prix Versailles is the World Architecture and Design Award, recognizes contemporary projects that leaves extraordinary imprints and resiliency towards the environment. Percal is the third project and the biggest given to the Philippines by far. And we did not apply, they chose us. And finally, we think the major fulfillment is seeing Parcal and seeing Asianity City comes to life. And we always say this and reiterate this during our presentation that seeing the community embracing the projects from these events, from concerts to run clubs, everything that you wouldn't find in a normal outdoor area, we've been able to do. And these are not coming from us. People ask us who are the event coordinators who we use to stage those. But to be quite honest, it's coming from the people within the community. 90% of these communities are from people who have gone there and said, I want to have a 10-miler event. I want to have a yoga class or a car club meet. And as a holistic developer, Parkal gave Asiana City its new soul. And to put cherry on top, I'd like to emphasize that IFC, BRI have verified Parcal, and we're not stopping. We make sure that there will be further alignment on creating resilient projects. And as a holistic company, it is in our DNA to achieve safer and long-lasting structures. So what's next for DM Wenceslao? Our journey continues with Asiana Plaza, our next office landmark built on the foundation of resilience. Because sustainability is not enough, we require and demand resilient and adaptive projects. On behalf of our CEO, the Board of Directors, and DM Wenceslao Group of Companies, thank you.
Thank you very much, Architect Iliaga, for sharing your valuable insights and experiences in integrating resilience into master planning and design. Your dedication to sustainable and innovative development truly inspires us all. And so Parcal is just close here. Currently, we're in SMOA, so perhaps we can really later visit there and see all of the actual building after this discussion that made it more interesting to visit. So if you have any questions for Architect Anthony, please do not hesitate to indicate it in our Q&A portion here and in the Zoom conference. Now, moving forward, may I welcome Mr. Don Racy, Director of Bamberton Development Corporation. With his strong finance background and strategic leadership in commercial property development, Mr. C brings a unique perspective on applying the Building Resilience Index to enhance real estate value and resilience. Mr. C combines a strong financial background, holding a Bachelor of Commerce in Finance from the University of British Columbia, and prior experience as an equity analyst with hands-on experience in commercial property development. At Bamberton, he leverages data-driven decision-making to maximize project value and advance resilient building practices. So once again, to provide us another case study, BRI in action, Mr. Don Racy. Sir?
Thank you, Hannah. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. I am honored to speak on behalf of our company for BRI. So today, I'd like to introduce our company and our flagship project. So my name's Don Wei. Our company is called Bamberton Development Corporation, and our flagship project is called Bamberton Center, located in Arcasao, Taguig City, Metro Manila. Our project is an 18-story office building located in Arcasao. On the ground floor, we have the retail spaces, and then we have 16 floors of office space above. On the left side, you will see our building facade, which we are proud of its unique design. And on the top right, you will see our bare shell office spaces, which will be ready for turnover by Q1 of 2026. On the bottom right, you'll see our main lobby, which is almost ready, and it will contain our turnstiles and all our high-speed elevators. For the features of our building, we implemented state-of-the-art facilities, including a double-glazed low-E glass for our green building efforts, advanced building management systems for seamless operations, BRF system for air conditioning to optimize energy savings. And then we've also implemented redundant generator sets to ensure 24/7 operations. And I'd like to highlight on the top right, our high damping rubber base isolation system, which is a unique and the first of its kind for a high-rise building in the Philippines. For our ongoing certifications, we are implementing, of course, the Building Resilience Index, EDGE Green Building certification, as well as the WELL certification. Just a brief introduction of the Arca South Estate, as it is relatively new and some people may not know. It is Ayala Land Estate. It's very close to the Manila International Airport, as well as BGC. It is going to be a very well-connected estate, as there are various infrastructures that are under construction and will be scheduled to launch by 2028. By then, it will be a very well-connected and easily accessible location. These include the Arca South subway station, the North-South commuter railway, the Taguig City Integrated Terminal Exchange, as well as a Skyway Stage 4, which was recently signed between San Miguel and Ayala, and they are currently already starting construction. You'll see our property close to the circle on the top right of the estate. So tying it together with building resilience, I'm sure we've heard of the recent incident last month in Cebu. It's a stark, harsh reality of the Philippines being located in the Pacific Ring of Fire. So there was a magnitude 7 earthquake that struck Cebu and caused over 70 casualties and a lot of property damage, which is unfortunate, but it is something that we live in, and it's something that we have to deal with. And this is why we decided to pursue building resilience as a priority for our project on top of the green building certifications. So in our project, we adopted a technology that is already very popular in Japan. It's called a seismic base isolation. For our building, we installed 46 units of high damping rubber. When these function as very good damping bearings that prevent damage to our structure during seismic activity. So for an ordinary building, you would have concrete beams and rebars columns that would absorb the movement from the earthquake by swaying back and forth, as this would dissipate the energy naturally. However, this would translate to uncomfortable motions as for the occupants, tenants, and residents above the building may experience a lot of movement, and this would cause potentially some falling of debris or movement of objects, which may cause some damage. In contrast to a seismically isolated building, essentially you would cut the building, separate it in half. One would be the foundation, which would move together with the earthquake's motion, while the building above would move minimally because it is being separated by high damping rubber bearings that's located in between the structure and the foundation. These rubber bearings would normally absorb up to 70% of the movement and the seismic activity, and in effect would make the motions for the building much more minimal. So in the case of a magnitude 7 earthquake, that would translate to only about a magnitude 2 to 3 that would be felt by the occupants above. So this would mean a lot more peace of mind for our tenants, and this would mean also much less damage and better protection for our occupants. So in this slide, you will see our installations of the high damping rubber bearings, which were manufactured in Japan and tested. As you can see, they are quite large and they support the entire weight of the building. There have been installations in Japan as early as 1990, and they've done testing 30 years later. These units are designed to last over 60 to 70 years. What's good to learn from our partners in Japan is that for the units that were installed in 1990, they extracted a unit and then conducted tests on them and found that they were still at 90% health integrity. So that is very reassuring for us, as the units are designed to withstand the test of time and is very well aligned with our objective of resilience. So it's a simple presentation, but I just wanted to emphasize that for our project, we are focusing on resilience as a key feature of our project as we look for long-term partnerships with our tenants, and we want to reassure of them that their investment and their businesses, when they locate with us, would be in good hands. That's all. Thank you, everyone. Hello? Hannah, hello?
Hannah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. C, for your enlightening presentation and for illustrating how data-driven decision-making fosters resilient investments in the built environment. Your experience is a valuable contribution to our collective efforts toward disaster risk reduction. So if you do have questions for Architect Anthony and Sir Donway C, do not hesitate to once again indicate it in our Q&A chat box. Thank you so much for that presentation. Next, we have a fireside chat that will link funding to private sector resilience with experts from Habitat for Humanity, QBE Asia Insurance, and NEO. This session will explore ways to align funding mechanisms with resilience building efforts. This portion of the webinar will be expertly moderated by Ms. Regina Hing. She currently serves as the anchor and business news editor at One News, the cable news arm of Signal, which is the Philippines' leading cable channel. Ms. Hing co-hosts One News flagship program, StoryCon, alongside other editors, where she delves into critical political and economic issues with clarity and insight. Beyond her broadcast role, she is also a communications consultant for the International Finance Corporation here in the Philippines. With her extensive experience in news anchoring, editorial leadership, and communication strategy, Ms. Hing will be our guide in today's engaging discussion. Ms. Regina, you're here?
Yeah. Hi there. Can you hear me okay? Is my audio good?
Yes, audio is good.
Okay, great. That's interesting poster there. And thank you for the very generous introduction. I don't know about expertly moderating it, but I'll try my best. Go ahead.
Before I give you the floor for the fireside chat, allow me to introduce our distinguished panel, Ms. Regina. So we have a panel of experts for this fireside chat who will be sharing their valuable perspectives on building resilience across sectors. First, we welcome Ms. Saba Kawaja. She is the Director of the Regional Operations Southeast Asia for Turboleger Center for Innovation in Shelter at Habitat for Humanity, which is leading its work across Southeast Asia. She oversees strategies that expands access to affordable and climate-resilient housing through market-based and financial inclusion approaches in the Philippines, Indonesia, and the wider region. Her portfolio includes strengthening housing finance systems, catalyzing investment partnership, and promoting green, disaster-resilient construction solution for low-income and owner-driven households. With her extensive experience at Habitat for Humanity, Saba was previously supported the House Finance System team in the Philippines, coordinated in innovation awards for the Asia Pacific and Africa Housing Forums, and contributed to multi-stakeholder partnership, advancing people-public-private collaboration in housing. So originally from Pakistan and based in Manila for over a decade, Sabah holds an MBA from the Lahore University of Management Science, or LUMS, and began her career in the banking sector. She is here with us to bring extensive experience in advancing shelter innovation and community resilience across the region. Ms. Sabah. Hi.
Hi.
And then joining her is Mr. Raymond Rufino, CEO of NEO, the Philippines' leading pioneer in sustainable and green real estate development. Under his leadership, NEO has become the foremost developer of green net zero office buildings in Southeast Asia, setting global benchmarks in environmentally responsible property development. Leading the foremost developer and manager of 7 office buildings in BGC, Sir Raymond has positioned NEO as the first company globally to receive the EDGE Zero Carbon certification from the IFC for its entire portfolio, earning him recognition as a true pioneer in sustainable development. NEO's first building influenced the construction of numerous other office and residential buildings that now define BGC. In 2013, NEO partnered with SM Investment Corporation to enhance its growth and development in portfolio management. Under his stewardship as CEO, NEO is also the first office portfolio in Southeast Asia to secure the WELL Health Safety Seal. Additionally, its buildings have been awarded a 5-star certification under Buildings for Ecologically Responsive Design Excellence, a voluntary rating tool for green buildings. In the present, NEO continues to play a vital role in promoting sustainability by creating environmentally responsible spaces that shape trends in the real estate industry and inspire others to follow the suit. Sir Raymond? Hello.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. And then rounding out our panel is Mr. Brendan Dunley, Regional Head for Underwriting of Property and Engineering at QBE Asia Insurance. He joined QBE in May 2017 as the Asia Pacific Head of Engineering. He has since taken on the additional role of Regional Head of Property. Before moving to Singapore, he had global roles based in Switzerland, and prior to insurance, he worked in various electrical installations and maintenance roles in industries including petrochemical, industrial, and real estate. He is a fellow of the Chartered Insurance Institute and the Australia-New Zealand Institute of Insurance and Finance, the EMEA representative for Asia, and the chairperson of the SEI GIA Singapore Construction and Engineering Committee. With his experience in insurance and risk underwriting, Mr. Dunley offers crucial insights into the intersection of resilience, risk management, and investment. So please join me in welcoming our panel as they engage as in an insightful discussion on linking funding and private sector resilience. I'll be giving now the floor to our moderator, Ms. Regina Hing.
Thank you, Hannah. But before I get to the conversation proper, I actually wanted to, because we're a little early for this panel, and I wanted to give a chance for the previous speakers to answer the questions that are in the chat box. So if that's okay, I'll just take 10 minutes very quickly. There is a question here. Are piles really enough in making buildings resilient in reclaimed land where there's also an exposure to liquefaction? And is it enough that the building structure will not tilt or subside and or sink? I'm guessing that question should be addressed to architect Ilyaga if he's still around. Could I have you back on screen just to address that?
Hi.
Architect Anthony will be adding you to the spotlight. For the panel of the
Hello.
fireside chat, allow me to remove you for a while in the
Yeah.
spotlight, please. Thank you, Architect.
Hi. So thank you. I think it's a very interesting question coming from some persons. Okay. So I think I can answer that in three points. Okay, so number one is, of course, as a developer, as a previous contractor, we always ensure full alignment from our structural design and pile consultants. It's supported by all the necessary stringent and required standards, including buildings intended use, required investigation reports, borehole locations, geotechnical investigation results defining the final pile depth. Number two is our piles are specifically designed and tuned for liquefaction demands. Test piles are usually conducted to confirm the required depths and identify any regularities in soil conditions. And it's not a one hit. We do it back and forth, coordination with consultants, making sure that we are on the specific requirements. Number three, we also provide detailed discussions on deep pile construction and corresponding ground improvements measures to ensure both structural integrity and long-term resilience. And lastly, not only on the buildings, of course, our estate operations are currently monitoring with estate-wide documentation that aligns the future exposure of these elements. So I think perhaps that is my answer.
Thank you, architect. I didn't understand a single thing of that, but I am hoping that that sufficiently addressed the gentleman's question. And so the next question is for architect Don Wei C. And it goes, the concept of the rubber rings midway on the building is very interesting. So is it expensive? Is it already predominantly used among the skyscrapers in the CBDs in NCR? And what is the minimal number of stories by which this is recommended? If I could have architect Don Wei C back on screen to answer that, please. Thank you.
I'm here. Yeah. So just a disclaimer, I'm not an architect nor an engineer. I come from a
okay.
business
It says,
background.
okay.
So, I can speak on the commercial side of things, and from my conversations with our Japanese partners, I can answer this question to Mr. and Miss Nanilu Kakas. So for the rubber bearings, actually base isolation system, for NCR and the Philippines in general, it's still very rare. Even in Japan, I think it's only around 10% of projects that have implemented this. So it's common, but not very super common. Is it expensive? It is a premium. It's not cheap, but I think of it as an additional investment. So in this case, I think it ranges typically around 5% of the project, the structural cost and the project cost. It would add up, but it is more of a physical insurance as a premium for the building. For the minimal number of stories that which this is recommended, when it's low, it's like 2-3 stories, there's generally no need, but then there are projects that already have this as early as 3 stories and up. Beyond that, I think it's easier, it's optimal for buildings from 3 stories to 20 stories. Beyond that, it gets a bit more technical and requires more engineering calculation. Yeah.
But there are solutions. There are bearings that are durable enough to protect high rises upwards
There
of
are
20 floors. Yeah. There are
correct.
solutions out there. Yeah.
There are. In Japan, I think there's very few, but I've seen about 5 projects or so. But how they normally implement it is they no longer put it in the foundation level. Instead, they would put it above at like 20 stories and up. So it would be a conventional building from the ground up to the 20th story, and then they'd separate it again. And then for the remaining building from 21 to 21st story and up, it would be suspended. It would be separated by the rubber bearings. So it's
Oh,
a
wow.
bit
That's
more
interesting.
tricky. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a two-pronged solution.
Mm-hmm.
That could work for the high rises in the CBDs, particularly in NCR, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Donway, for that
Thank you.
answer. I will now move on to my panel, which is all about the money, my favorite topic. Okay, so we've heard a lot about the tangible physical benefits of resilience. Now it's time to talk about the other side of it, which is the funding. And I want to start with Raymond asking what is actually the ROI on resilience, right? There's a big question mark still there about how we redirect private capital from post-disaster recovery towards a more proactive approach to investment. What has your experience been? And excuse me, how has BRI helped along this process?
Yeah, thanks, Regina, for having me today. You know, similar to green building, when we look at resilience, at least for NEO, we don't look at resilience or even green building strategies or features as a totally separate cost. We look at it as really part of what we're delivering for a project. And the reason for that is most of our customers are our tenants, right, for our office buildings. Business continuity is really critical for them. When a lot of tenants, excuse me, come to see our buildings, especially if they're newcomers to the Philippines, they are acutely aware that we have challenges. I mean, we have risks that we have to face every day. I think Donway mentioned this earlier. We live, work, and play in a high seismic area, so the chance of earthquakes is quite high. We get a lot of very severe thunderstorms every year, so flooding is always a problem. We are not very far from active volcanoes, so you have all of that volcanic activity. So there are a lot of different risks. So top of mind for most businesses when they're choosing a location for their home is, can our business operate here even if all of these risks are present, right? So it's very important for office building owners and developers and managers that we do everything we can to ensure that these tenants feel safe in these buildings, that in the event of any worst case scenarios or risks, that we've put in both the physical measures, but also the soft side, the people, the processes, the systems on the soft side of things to ensure that the business continuity can be maintained. I think the second important factor or trend that we're seeing now is that a lot of employees post pandemic would rather work from home or work from somewhere else. And so, as a lot of businesses are trying to get their people to come back to the office, I think it's really important that they can give peace of mind and comfort to the employees that, yes, we're getting you to come back to the office, but you are coming to an office that is safe and secure, right? I think business continuity and this peace of mind comfort for the employees are two of the main driving factors why for us it's so critical that we really put resilience into not just an additional aspect of the way we design and build buildings and operate them, but really part of the core of what we're offering.
But Raymond, I think you're more the exception than the rule. And I think this whole mindset around it's not a cost, is an investment. I think that's you guys are a bit of an outlier. By you guys, I mean NEO, of course. You guys are a bit of an outlier when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But
Hopefully not for long,
yeah,
right? Hopefully not for long.
hopefully not for long. But if you were making a case to your board, for instance, what do you think would work in terms of making a case for resilience? Is it minimizing operational losses? Is it ensuring that the assets are still sustainable even after
Yeah.
something hits? Is it that you will incur smaller losses when disaster strikes? What kind of language do
Sure.
you think will work here?
So again, we're in income producing real estate, right? So the most important financial aspect of our business is ensuring that rental income continues and is consistent over the years, right? So the problem with these risks and these natural risks and hazards is that they could interrupt your cash flow or your income significantly. If our building gets damaged, for example, in an earthquake, and we need to repair that building. During that time of repair, there's a significant loss of income that we are going to experience. If we can get back to operating the building with minimal downtime for our tenants, that also means there's no interruption in income or cash flow for us. So that's the business continuity of the tenants. It's almost by ensuring that we also ensure the continuity of our business model, which is the rental income that we get, right? So it's very, very critical that we can give that continuity of income. That's the kind of language that we typically use when we speak to our stakeholders and talk about how critical resilience is, because that income flow, if that gets significantly interrupted, and we have, for example, financing obligations, we have loans that we need to service, the entire business, if that building stays closed for many years while it's being rebuilt, that could be a significant impact and loss for us.
Wow, that's a fantastic perspective. So you got to come at it from both sides, talk about the operational continuity as well as the protection of your employees. Saba, I'm going to move on to you, talking about the micro build fund, which I've heard can which can finance resilient housing at the community level. Talk us through what that's all about, what your experience has been, and can that scale up?
Yeah. Thank you so much. So a little bit background about the Microbuild Fund is that it's first of its kind, affordable housing focused blended finance investment vehicle, in which we started off with 10 million of our NGO concessional funds, which helped us raise almost 100 million. And we also had a layer of callable letter of guarantees to further secure the funding. And what that did was it allowed us to invest almost 230 million in over 62 institutions in 33 countries across the globe, which then lent to low-income households to improve their housing quality. And what, in a nutshell, if I have to explain what this blended finance model demonstrated, is that affordable housing is financeable. It does not just need to be subsidized. It's a profitable, stable portfolio for lenders, and the non-repayment rate in housing loan portfolio was seen to be 6.3% versus a 7.6% in general portfolio. So what through Microbuild, we have proof in numbers that affordable housing is an investable asset class. And how I see that it can be transferable to BRI is that a very similar principle can be applied here, mainly in 3 areas: in financial design, in portfolio monitoring, and also in ecosystem strengthening. So in terms of what I mean about financing design is that we are, IFC has been the leader in sustainability linked loans. And a similar resilience compliant credit can also be offered, in which we have KPIs and drawdowns linked to resilience criteria that can be measured through BRI. And that can provide lenders and insurers more confidence in investing in this area, not just social and economic housing, large mega projects, but also for smaller scale owner-driven and community constructed housing. So in the context of Asia Pacific specifically, why this is vitally important is that, we are experiencing high levels of urbanization, and almost 70% of the population would be living in urban cities. And those are the houses that are still going to be constructed by 2050. So there's a large pressure that is going to come on housing, and the need for resilience is even more higher. And what we know from our experience is that low-income households and also countries with lower income populations tend to face bigger challenges in terms of losses incurred due to climate change and climate events. So this is like a multi-sector driver for impact, that when you invest in affordable housing, you inadvertently invest in resilience, in gender outcomes, and also education and livelihood outcomes for low-income households.
When you say blended finance, what are we talking here? Is it a mix of sovereign and private capital, or
Uh,
what's the mix here?
So here it is a mix of concessional financing, which Habitat
Okay.
raised to own sources,
Mm,
and then it enabled us to raise about 90 million of commercial capital.
mm.
And that 10 million, along with the letters of guarantee, which were invested in liquid assets, that allowed us to, de-risk lending to microfinance institutions, which on their own were considered as high risks by commercial investors and banks.
Yeah. Right. So is there much more interest from commercial capital, or it's a bit of a hard sell, do you think?
See, the fund was launched in 2012, so it's been an over a decade journey in trying to prove this point that how affordable housing can be an investable asset class. And over the years, we've seen a shift, and that's what allowed that from 100 million, we were able to churn it to a 230 million investments. And
Oh,
our
wow.
repayment rate is over 95%. So that's the success of this initiative. And now what we are uh, planning is a build-on fund, which would be 5 times the original one, 500 million follow-on fund, which will not only invest in microfinance and other financial institutions, but also in MSMEs in the housing value chain. So we will use
Right.
the investment and the proof of lending from Microbuild 1 to strengthen the ecosystem, which I was referring to as a similar approach that can be applied to BRI.
Right. No, that's fantastic. 95% is pretty good. Let me move on now to Brendan. Circling back to what I asked Raymond earlier about how resilience, of course, still getting, for the most part in the Philippines, getting treated like an expense, kind of like something you grudgingly pay for, kind of like insurance you hope to never use. So, what's your experience been like, and how do we reframe it for what it actually is, which is protection for the bottom line, as Raymond said, and the ability to keep the business going?
So, well, first of all, Regina, thanks for having myself and QBE involved in this sort of great topic. Now, for us in the insurance industry, we don't currently have a common definition of what is and what isn't a resilient risk. So many of us in the industry will refer to building codes in particular sort of countries, and they can be a very useful guide as to what might be a resilient risk. So if you look in New Zealand after the Christchurch earthquakes, back in the 90s, they introduced building codes for seismic codes. And then the following Christchurch earthquakes, you saw that they managed to handle those sort of a lot more efficiently. If you look at Taiwan last year, now, after the 99 earthquake in Taiwan, I think there was something like 100,000 sort of buildings damaged there, $16 billion in economic losses, and worst of all, nearly 2,500 people died with that. So after that earthquake, they introduced the seismic building code. So if you look at what happened April last year, then we see about somewhere around 100 buildings damaged, 3 billion in economic losses, of which probably 20% came from one semiconductor, entity on their own. But probably, and what is best of all, we're looking at maybe 19, 20 people died compared to nearly 2,500 for a similar magnitude earthquake. Now, the thing is with the building codes, they're not definitive. So you can have the building codes, but if you don't implement them correctly, then you can still have the disasters. So if we look at the Turkish earthquake in February 2023, that highlighted that even though there was building codes, a number of developers didn't adhere to them. And you can add into that Bangkok as well. I think we've all seen the video of that building sort of collapse in Bangkok. Again, poor workmanship. They were using sort of shoddy, cheap materials to cut costs. and that's the result of cutting corners. So where we have an opportunity to use the Building Resilience Index is a reference point for what is and what isn't a resilient risk. And for us at QBE, we're trying to sort of drive that thought leadership, not just in our industry, but I think it's something the banking and finance industry can, it's a tool that would be beneficial there. The building industry, there's lots of industries that can benefit from the Building Resilience Index. And as well, if we don't have a target, then how are we going to reach our goals for a more resilient world, which we need sort of, as soon as possible? It's not just about future resilience, it's about current resilience. So we've got a great opportunity to promote the Building Resilience Index tool as an industry standard for many industries.
You're right, Brendan. That is what the BRI, the Building Resilience Index, is for, right? It quantifies what used to be guesswork. But I'm wondering, just to get down to the nitty-gritty of it, how do you actually use that data to give the funders and insurers like yourself the confidence to write checks? Does that mean if your assets are BRI verified, you could then qualify for a resilience-linked, I think what they call it, resilience-linked financing, or at the very least, pay lower premiums? How does it work?
Yeah, so I've got to say credit to Marsh Insurance Brokers, who first approached me about what might be a resilient risk and would we provide preferable terms and conditions. So for us as insurers, of course, it's a better risk. It's a more preferred risk. I'd love to have a portfolio of resilient risks. So it will attract better terms and conditions, and whether a risk is insurable at all. Now, a number of the IFC people have been involved with our seminars around Asia, and one of our presenters actually has a home in the Palisades in California. Now, that guy, he came from an insurance industry background. He invested in his property in the Palisades. And after that bushfire, you could see photos. There's about 3 or 4 buildings that were still quite intact. I think he suffered about about $150,000 worth of damage. But if you look all around the rest of the area, all the other buildings were destroyed. So in California, there's problems where insurers have difficulties trying to set the requisite terms and conditions to actually be in business there. So one thing about, whether they get preferred premiums, which you will get, but it's whether you get insured at all. And then if we come back to the finance industry, we had a saying in our seminars that if it's not insurable, it's not bankable, meaning you're not going to get the finance for that risk. And I think number one is that if we have resilient risks, if you have damaged property, that can be replaced. But number one has got to be protecting lives.
If it's not insurable, it's not bankable. Take a step back from there and say that if you can't manage it, then you can't measure it, right? Or if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. That's the other way around. But you're the regional head of underwriting for QB in Asia. Give us a better sense of how difficult it is with the gap in information. You talked about it at the start of your intervention about how there's no one clear standard across the board. So how would you go about it, trying to ensure a building, for instance, that's in the same location as another infrastructure that's maybe less resilient? How does that go?
Yeah, so we'll get as much information as we can from the brokers. They'll provide us a certain extent of information, but we won't get the best information that way. The best information will normally come from a survey where you can go and sort of talk with the customers. But again, going back to that example of Bangkok, where you look at that building, once that building is up, it's really hard to know about the cost cutting that many contractors apply globally. So, and that's again where the BRI tool sort of comes in, where you can get better information on how the building has been built, and to ensure that it's been built to, the right design, the right building codes. And when we get that sort of comfort level that it does meet those standards, again, using the BRI tool is a great opportunity for that. Then, then one, it will be insurable, but two, it'll attract much better terms and conditions.
Thank you, Brendan. Raymond, has that been your experience in terms of ensuring the physical assets for NEO? Has it been easier after you've rolled out? Well, you guys are a champion of EDGE too, excellence in design efficiencies. But now also BRI. So what has that been like? Does it get easier, or do you have to restart the process each time? Talk us through
No,
that.
yeah. So my hope is that exactly as Brendan mentioned, that the insurers and the financing partners, the banks, over time start to embrace BRI as a great tool for kind of sort of allocating I'd say special concessions, whether it's terms, whether it's lower rates, or whatever preferential terms can be given to these assets, and these asset owners were able to demonstrate that there have been a lot of measures put in to make these buildings less risky and more resilient. To be perfectly honest, locally we're not there yet. I'm really happy about this latest progress with both Kibi and Marsh to kind of explore that further and see if we can start to see some local examples of BRI projects actually securing these preferential terms. Historically, the insurers, when we first piloted BRI, because we've been with BRI and IFC on this journey ever since the beginning, the response is very positive. The insurance brokers and the insurance companies appreciate it. But between understanding BRI and appreciating that we have it, to translating to actually lower premiums or actually specifically special rates or terms, we haven't seen that yet. It is my hope though that and then I'm very grateful. Marsh and QB are actually our tenants as well. So hopefully there's a lot of synergy there moving forward as well, to try to see what we can as an industry start to move the needle. Because if BRI becomes widely accepted and embraced as a credible tool for establishing a risk profile for buildings, then it's a win-win for everyone. I mean, our tenants will feel more comfortable coming into the building. Our lenders will feel more comfortable lending to the building. Our insurers will feel more comfortable covering the risk of the building. We can also, be more comfortable that the continuity of our business model is also there. So it really is a win-win for all if we can really just get BRI widely adopted and accepted by everyone within the industry.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of synergy here. We could eke out a deal just amongst all of us. But that's interesting. No, do you find that the tenants actually ask for it? I mean, it's one thing for them to feel good about it and say, "Oh, great, the my offices are this and that," and abide to a high standards when it comes to resilience in terms of green efficiencies and all of that stuff. But do you find that it's actually giving you a competitive edge in a market that's highly competitive right now?
No, absolutely. Business continuity resilience is top of mind for most tenants. I would say that, while some tenants are very particular about your sustainability, your green features, etc., I would say that resilience is probably just as important. For some tenants, even more important. We field a lot of questions about, what is your history of flooding in the area, because they know that it floods a lot in Metro Manila. We've literally had tenants come from flood-prone areas and buildings and move to our buildings in BGC because they said, we've had it. Every time there's a storm, our people, get sick. They come to the building. They have to wade through water. we just cannot, continue to be in a location that exposes our people to that kind of risk constantly. So we've really heard that from a lot of our tenants. This is a top of the list key consideration for them. They want to know that the hazards for their home location for their office, especially with regards flooding. I think that would be number one on the list. Are really minimized, right? So this has been a big source of attraction, not just for our buildings, but for Bonifacio Global City, because the city has infrastructure to prevent flooding, right? At the city level, we have fantastic infrastructure, and then of course we supplement that with a lot of measures that we try to implement at the building level as well.
Yeah, that's great to hear. What about earthquakes? So there's a lot of chatter at the moment about
Yeah.
when the big one, when or if it might occur.
Yes.
What kind of conversations are you having around that?
Yeah, again, tenant is also very top of mind. A lot of tenants ask about earthquakes. Fortunately, in the Philippines, we have very, very conservative structural engineers. So I do have a lot of respect for our community of structural engineers. It's painful for us as developers sometimes because the costs of our structure in the Philippines are very, very expensive. When we do our buildings, sometimes our foreign architects and designers question, why are your foundations so conservative? It's like you're preparing for a building double the height of what you're actually building. And we say, well, because our structural engineers are very conservative, we
Oh, wow.
acknowledge that we have to operate in an environment where earthquakes are a reality, right? So you'll notice that a lot of our buildings, if you look at it from a structural foundation perspective, a lot of them are actually over designed, especially on the when you're talking about class A premium buildings. The structural engineers tend to be very, very conservative. So that's quite good. Now, when it comes to the smaller buildings or the other buildings in the industry, I can't speak to those, but at least the taller buildings, the high rise quality buildings, I think the structural integrity of a lot of those buildings tend to be quite robust.
Right. Brendan really likes all of that conservatism.
Yeah.
Saba, let's come back to you. So obviously I'm talking to Raymond about the commercial real estate side of things. What's your experience been with affordable housing? What kind of risks and hazards do you have to deal with, that do you have to build resilience against?
In terms of affordable housing, one of our challenges is to get those houses insured. As you would know that in Philippines, the dominant sector for insurance and micro insurance has been life and personal accident insurance.
Yeah.
Property is lagging, A, because of the risk, and B, lack of how to measure and adjust that risk. So it's just, we do not have the right mechanisms to measure and adapt a response to the property risk in the environment of Philippines, which is like 20 typhoons, flooding, earthquake, you name it, and we probably have it here in terms of a climate risk. So that's one of our challenges. And also in terms of numbers, if we really talk about the bottom of the pyramid for housing, about 1.6 million houses in Philippines are foundationless. So you can just couple that, and average household size is 5. So you just know how many people it puts at risk. So we at Habitat, we are promoting some retrofit solutions. One of our flagship program there is called Beam Monolith. It uses existing materials of rebars and cement, but it's a better way of constructing which can retrofit a foundation and provide protection to low-income households, even allow them to do a building extension safely for up to 2 to 3 stories. So, but these, again, there is a associated cost with it, and it's a behavior change issue, which takes a long time of repeated consumer education to overcome. So in terms of when we speak about the low-income households, the challenges are not just financing, it is also a challenge of quality information and education material. So it's literally a poverty of opportunities. And if you're able to protect these families from climate and financial shocks, it's basically your middle class in waiting, which can then consume a lot more services from the banking sector and other consumption-oriented economies. So they have a lot of economic value. If only our measures of providing them financial protection and inclusion improve, there's a lot of potential there.
So your challenge in terms of making the case for resilience in affordable housing rather, is actually completely different from what Raymond was talking about. What do you find has worked? I mean, I know you said years of education and outreach, but is it primarily just the cost? If you take away the cost issue, do people then respond much more favorably? What's the experience like there?
It's a three-prong approach that we use. So you have to increase the supply of financing. So that somewhat covers the thing. Second is that you develop the ecosystem so that quality material and services are being able to reach the low-income household. Then third is the construction literacy. So how we operate, especially in the case of microbuild, is not just that we are investing in microfinance institutions to lend to these low-income households. We are also providing technical assistance and capacity building to the financial institutions, and also for the end consumer in form of how to construct more resilient houses for their families. And we had very successful partnerships in the past with government units who were also promoting Build Back Safer campaign, and in which we really brought down and simplified construction practices that can add value to resilience factor for low-income households. Customizing those things, making them simpler and without compromising resilience, that is the challenge. And in some cases, we were able to fulfill that, pairing consumer accessible information for architecture with the housing loan.
Mm. With the retrofit, you use essentially the same materials. We're talking rebars, we're talking cement. There's nothing particularly special about the materials itself.
Yes.
But somehow you are able to build resilience into it. How does that work? I'm sorry if that's such a lowbrow question,
Right.
by the way.
No, it's you see, low-income households, because of how valuable the money is and how many competing demands there are on that same pocket of money, that they would not invest in design services or engineering services, and they will compromise. And almost an ironic fact is also that out of those 1.6 million housing, a significant portion is inhabited by construction workers in the Philippines. So it's not just that they don't know how to construct better. There are several systemic barriers that avoid it for them to have a resilient home. And that's where we are working in, that we improve access to affordable quality materials, proper construction guides, and access to credit.
Yeah, that is pretty tragic that a lot of these housing units are inhabited by the construction workers themselves. But where are these located, by the way?
They're across Philippines, and in terms of this beam monolith technology habitat with a donor, we've built 9 model houses, and we're currently in the process of doing a thorough engineering checkup of those houses post the Cebu earthquake. They're around the Cebu region, these 9 model houses. To our knowledge, right now, from our just call interviews with the residents, the houses have survived, but we will do a thorough physical examination also for the foundation and the building structure. And that report should be available in about a month's time.
And are there more plans to scale up beyond that, or it's
this technology, this was actually a construction challenge that we had in 2020, and UP Dilemma, a founder from there, was the winner for it, who provided an affordable, scalable solution from the Philippines itself. It was a global construction challenge, and the winner was actually from Philippines. And we've copyrighted it, but it's an open source technology. And we are in conversation with NEDA and a few other government agencies for scaling up this initiative.
Fantastic. I think it does need multi-agency institutional support in order to keep it going. Thank you, Saba. Brendan, I'm gonna come back to you because we didn't finish the conversation earlier. So you've made the case for independent, verifiable third-party data, the importance of that in closing the gap in insurance. Are you seeing any early signs at all that the market might be ready for it to start, differentiating on pricing when it comes to resilience versus non-resilience?
Yeah, well, like I said, where Marsh, the biggest brokers in the world, showed this sort of interest, and as you know, they're a partner of the IFC, and actually we're going out to carry out surveys in Vietnam together with the IFC, Bureau Veritas. But other brokers as well are having discussions with Aon. Now, when we do our sort of seminars, I mean, some of our competitors might try and sort of grab the brokers to themselves or the risk managers.
Right.
But, for us, what we're trying to do at QBE is drive the industry and not just sort of, that QBE is doing this, because we can't do this on our own. It needs all of our industry and beyond, like I said, the banking finance industry to step up. And that's where I get, the IFC airtime at regional conferences, because I want all our competitors to hear about this. It's, one thing is a business, need, but there's also a moral need to protect
Correct.
people and lives, and we can add into that all the animals, and maybe you want to add a few insects into that as well. We could look after them. But yeah, so like I said, it's starting to sort of get some sort of traction, some movement. And, we just need to sort of snowball from here. But I think we need sort of government sort of bodies to sort of join the party as well. A lot of initiatives will be sort of public-private. It won't be the insurers can do everything on their own. So we need that sort of public-private partnerships. And if you look at some of the work that's been done, some of the work Saba's doing sounds fantastic. But other examples, Hong Kong, where the government there actually, really working on the flood drainage. Because going back to what Raymond was saying, he can have sort of great buildings there, that are sort of very resilient. But if the local governments aren't playing their part with drainage, for example, his beautiful buildings are still going to be subject to all these floods. So across the spectrum, it's got to be all about partnerships.
And I'm sure you've begun having those conversations with the public sector too. And what's that been like? Is it, I think people in general have a general understanding of what the problem is, but do you getting enough of a motivation, enough of a initiative on their side to get things moving along in the right direction?
It's probably at a beginning state where we're having conversations now, and that's where I use my role with like the Monetary Authority Singapore to sort of bring up these issues, and where they play their part in ASEAN, that these topics can come up, and it's this past year has been a massive learning curve for me. One, to learn about the IFC. The other week I was with the Red Cross in Hong Kong, and learning from those people. So it's it's how we sort of use all these entities, how we come together more, because as I've sort of said a number of times, the insurance industry can't do this on our own. We're going to have all these parties coming together.
Right, absolutely. But it's also good to hear, very good to hear that QBE Marsh is trying to drive the whole industry forward as opposed to just yourselves. I'm being told to wrap up, but I do also have a question for Omid in the chat box. If I could call him in, Omid Saberi of IFC. The question is, have you collaborated with funding institutions like the ADB and World Bank, major banks in the Philippines, et cetera, to subsidize insurance premiums for those companies who will use BRI tools, among others, and also other benefits such as applying for loans when using BRI. BRI focuses on real estate, big private companies. What about smaller investments? And that question came from architect Lisa Sulerio. Omid?
Thank you. So I think this is a really good question in terms of our collaboration, the way that we work on this, and what Brendan said. So I want to echo that this is not something that any party, any of us, Raymond from NEO or Sabah from Habitat, none of us, we can do this alone, right? What we need to do is all bring everyone together. The way BRI operates is that, of course, ADB and World Bank and other investors, they all have access to the same data that we all have access to, right? So BRI is an open platform to use by everybody. Obviously, these investors, they don't provide insurance themselves. Obviously, they provide loans or investments. But within the international investors bodies like ADB or World Bank, they all have the mandate to increase their investments in resilience and adaptation. And BRI can be a great catalyzer for them to bring the investments toward better, more resilient assets. The second question about smaller players, and I agree that we need to go downstream to smaller players. That can only happen if we collaborate with commercial banks, right? For example, IFC or World Bank cannot be providing small loans of, what Sabah is doing with small players or home builders or secondary contractors. That can happen using local commercial banks. And we have been talking in Philippines with multiple banks. How do we provide financing to them so that they can provide it to the third party? But doing that means that we need to enable the banks, local commercial banks, to be trained, and then they will be training and working with local smaller players. We have done this for green buildings on Edge. For example, in India, we are doing self-built housing with Edge. We are hoping to do the same in Pakistan as well. I'm going to Pakistan from here to discuss these opportunities. It takes a lot more time. I think it's not as easy as when we work with Raymond, for example, that is working with larger projects. With the smaller players, the capacity building takes more time. So I'll stop here, Regina. Back to you.
What was the what's the sticking point usually? Is it the risk part of it? Because they're, of course, commercial capital, and therefore they have to be ultra conservative sometimes. Especially when you come out and begin to present BRI. BRI essentially, as we just said, already quantifies what used to be guesswork, right? So it's hard numbers, it's clear data that they can appreciate, but where's the holdup then?
I think the holdup for different players is different, right? When we talk to commercial banks, what happens is that they normally say, show us the pipeline, and then we finance them. And we don't have the pipeline in medium or smaller players, right? So we need to build the pipeline, and that takes time for them to appreciate the tool and see the benefits. For the developers, normally they question, why should we do this, right? We do our building permit, we get our insurance, and something goes wrong, then Brendan will pay for it, right? Why should we worry about this? Because again, the mindset of resilience is something that we need to build, and it takes time to build. It's not.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of chicken and egg issue here as well, right? With what Brendan said earlier, and what Raymond is doing is that taking the leadership position, but we need to bring others to join this, right? What other examples that we saw in this webinar, they're already starting to include resilience in commercial assets, shopping malls, and that's really start to do the snowball.
Fantastic. Thank you, Omid. You're absolutely right. It does take a very deep fundamental mindset shift. And then I'm going to move on to the final question for the day, and that's addressed to Donway C, which is why we've got him back on screen. And the question goes, are there any upcoming milestones for Bamberton Center, such as new tenants, openings, or events where resilience and sustainability will play a visible role in your branding or promotional activities?
Hi, Regina. Thanks for the question. Yeah, we're looking to launch our building for the grand opening in January of 2026. And we look forward, we hope by then that we've hashed out all our certifications, and we definitely want to have Building Resilience Index and the EDGE be featured on our during our building launch. And in fact, if we have a future event with BRI, that would be perfect if we could host your event at our location, at our building. That would be an honor of ours.
Fantastic. That's in January?
Yep, that's targeted in
Okay.
January.
Okay, don't forget to invite us all.
We
I
will
said that
do.
was the last question, but then another one just came in. So this is the last question, and that's for architect Anthony Iliaga. And the question is, for an operational project like Park Hall, what barriers and opportunities do you see when considering retrofitting for enhanced resilience? Are there specific challenges in balancing ongoing operations with upgrades to meet resilience standards? That's a great question. How do you juggle the two?
It is a very interesting question. So I think I'll focus first on opportunities that we see that we can do for a project. Number one is, of course, we need to do incremental upgrades. Resilience can be improved through phased low disruption interventions. We cannot just prepare for this. We need to have at least a thorough phased low disruption interventions. One of the major things that we decide and prepared is that, of course, currently we don't know when will be the next typhoon will hit, but our company upgraded already the storm water detention systems for this project. Again, it's already constructed that will enhance the move or the flow of water to the project. We have the detention tanks already in place. Number two is, of course, we need to integrate adaptive landscape features. That includes permeability or additional landscape development that can enhance or identify further assistance for the rainfall effect. Number two is, of course, we need to identify data-driven improvements. Of course, Parkal is already operational. We can identify performance gaps, target retrofits, where they have the greatest impact. We can do a crawl, walk, run setup, enhancing proper flood management, backup power delivery to tenants, or better improved connectivity for communication lines. Future-proofing value, of course, we need to retrofit not only for the safety and reliability, but of course, we need to think of the long-term asset values. Tenant confidence will always be there, compliance to climate change, and of course, the ever-changing sustainability standards. Number three, and lastly, would be, of course, collaboration and replicability. I think for now, what we're doing for Parkal can be a model for resilient retrofitting so that, in mixed-use development, of course, there are two major anchors, that's retail and offices, allowing us to share learnings, establish new benchmarks, and of course, to make sure that we're aligned for ever-changing again for urban development.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Anthony. I'm curious, Raymond, is that how you guys do things as well? Do you have to do it in phases with making sure there's low disruption, or do you build everything in from the get-go?
Yeah, well, I think I think Anthony's right. You have what you can build in from the get-go. That's probably where you get the most impact, is really how you design the building and how you implement at least the major items, right? The subsequent enhancement or improvements, definitely you have to factor in operations. And I think, if you do things right from the beginning, then the enhancements, though there will be enhancements, those enhancements can be, I would say, less capital intensive and less disruptive if you're able to do a lot of the upfront, design investment efforts. It pays off in the long run because you have to do less enhancements. There will still be some, but at least it's reduced. I think the challenge for developers that embrace, this late in the game is that yes, you can enhance, but unfortunately, it's going to cost you more, both in terms of time and disruption. So, I think you always have to find that balance. You need to do a lot of work and investment upfront, but then still have that commitment to continuously enhance and improve. That's like Anthony mentioned. Yeah.
It does all pay off in the long run. And my biggest takeaway today is that resilience can be investable, right? It
Yeah.
is, you can turn it into investable infrastructure. And with that, I'm gonna end the panel. I'm being told to close up. So thank you so much, Brendan Dunley, Saba Kawaja, Raymond Rufino, Omid Saberi, Don Baisi, and Anthony Ilaga. Back to you, Hannah.
Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Regina, and of course, all of our esteemed resource speakers for sharing your valuable insights and expertise with us today. Your contributions have truly enriched this discussion on building resilience and funding smarter infrastructure investments. We would like to extend our sincere gratitude to everyone for who has participated in this Q&A session, and of course the fireside chat. Your thoughtful questions and engagement demonstrated the collective commitment to share advancing resilience in our communities and industry. May I request just a quick photo, because we're now complete. In this virtual stage, we also have our co-chairperson and the vice president of SM Supermalls, Engineer Liza Silerio, and of course, Sir Alexander, Vice Admiral Alexander Pama, to have a quick photo lang po from the panelist team. So for just 5 seconds, let's smile. 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much, everyone. And we're very grateful to have you here. We've learned a lot and realized that we really can do a lot when it comes to building resilience. Now we have come to the synthesis portion of our webinar, and to help us reflect on the, before we proceed with the synthesis, rather, may I request, of course, a short message from our co-chairperson of Arise Philippines, Engineer Liza Silerio. Ma'am Liza.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. Thank you, everyone. So resilience has become the foundation of a sustainable and competitive real estate industry. The real estate sector can hold the power to shape a safer and more adaptive communities. The SM Prime, NEO, Ayala, Mega World, DMCI, so many. So by integrating resilience into every stage for land use and construction, for financing and management, we are able to protect the well-being and the confidence of the people we serve and the people whom they trust, than whom we have into our business. So I would just have one call, and the call now is to be louder and stronger together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Engineer Liza. So to proceed and help us reflect on the key insights shared today, and to provide a clear and inspiring way forward, may I call on Mr. Angelo Tan, the country lead for climate business at the International Finance Corporation of the Philippines, the Pacific, and Malaysia. Mr. Tan brings extensive expertise in advancing sustainable, resilient, and low-carbon built environments. He leads IFC's efforts in mainstreaming programs such as the Building Resilience Index, of course, and the EDGE Green Building Certification. With over a decade of experience in real estate development, advisory and sustainable design, Angelo is a passionate advocate for mobilizing private capital to drive climate smart property investment. Sir Jello, to give us the synthesis. Sir Angelo, apologies, we cannot hear you. Sir Jello, sorry, we cannot hear. Can we? Sir Angelo, excuse me. Sir Angelo, hello. Sorry. We would like
Angelo?
Angelo, excuse me po. Sorry, can you pause for a bit?
Oh, he's not, he doesn't have the Angelo. Angelo? Hannah, do you want to try to call him on his mobile then?
Apologies for that technical issues. Sir Angelo, can you see us? Hello? Yeah, no sound. We were not able to hear a thing. Apologies from the beginning. I'm so sorry. We did not hear you from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you close and then unmute?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, yes. Loud and clear. Yes.
Okay, good. But I can't hear you, but I'm using Pearl's mic, so maybe if you can just go to the next
Yes,
slide.
it's okay. Okay.
After that, which
Okay.
is the synthesis. Yeah.
Yeah, so once again, to provide us the synthesis, Sir Angelo Tan from IFC. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, yes. Okay, all right. So good morning and thank you for joining us as we honor the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. So today we've heard a clear message. Resilience is not a side project. It is the standard for safeguarding lives, job creation, and investment. Dr. Joseph framed the stakes crisply. Investing in resilient buildings is not a cost, but a strategic investment that leads to reduced costs, less downtime, and better financing opportunities. This is not only about stronger walls. It is about continuity, confidence, and competitiveness. As Dr. Joseph reminded us, building resilience is a continuous journey that demands innovation, partnership, and a shared sense of responsibility. From IFC, our global lead Omid Saberi grounded us in the why and the how. The Philippines birthed the Building Resilience Index, and it is now scaling globally. The logic is powerful. For every dollar invested in resilience, we can save at least $4 in avoided damages. And the purpose is unmistakable. Protecting lives, businesses, and assets is the key message behind BRI. BRI aligns governments, engineers, developers, banks, and insurers around a common language and verifiable standard supported by open hazard data, actionable measures, and third-party verification. We then saw what this looks like on the ground. Anthony showed how resilience can be felt, not just measured. Parkal and Asiana City prioritize walkability, climate protection, and public ground quality. In Anthony's words, our DNA to achieve safer, long-lasting structures. And perhaps most telling, seeing the community embrace the project, that's the real fulfillment. Resilience is both a performance metric and a lived experience. And a lived experience too of our potential tenants in commercial real estate sector. From Donway, when we visited the property a few months ago, we saw JLL touring a potential tenant, and we're pretty sure that just like with green building certification, resilience can also add value to the leasing, sales, and marketing process. The tenants are going to demand for more resilient buildings. Raymond connected resilience to the P&L. We don't treat resilience as a separate cost. It's part of what we deliver. From income-producing real estate, the most important financial outcome is continuity of rental income. Physical measures, plus people, processes, and systems, translate to continuity for tenants and for owners. Resilience, as Raymond put it, gives employees the peace of mind that supports return to office and business continuity. It almost feels full circle because it was with Raymond when we launched BRI in 2021, and he made the call to get the insurance sector to reward resilience. And with Saba, she showed how blended finance can unlock scale for resilient housing. The Microbuild Fund began with $10 million in concessional capital, catalyzing nearly $100 million, and achieved a 95% agreement rate proof that disciplined design and risk-sharing work. The next step is out there, a $500 million follow-on to reach further down market and across MSMEs. Critically, when you invest in affordable housing, you also invest in resilience, gender, and educational outcomes, which are so important for us at the World Bank Group. And finally, Brendan offered the insurer's reality check. If it's not insurable, it's not bankable. And I'm pretty sure I have that on a t-shirt, printed on a t-shirt somewhere. Codes without implementation leave hidden vulnerabilities, but BRI reduces uncertainty by making resilience measurable and verifiable. Better information improves underwriting quality, expands insurability, and ensures better terms and conditions. Measurement is not bureaucracy, it's access to capital. So what's the call to action? We need to make BRI the standard. Use BRI at site selection, design, schematic, concept, detailed design, up to leasing, marketing, and we need to verify those self-assessments. Bake it into procurement, lending covenants such as in green leasing, and disclosures. Let's price resilience. Let's link the verification of these projects to improve insurance terms to incentivize resilient building design, construction, and operations. And then let's unlock opportunities for resilience-linked finance, just as we have done so in sustainability-linked finance. Let's reward performance. Build capacity, grow verifier networks such as with Bureau Veritas and RINA, and train local engineers on hazards and measures. Let's share data. Let's use open hazard layers and update continuously to guide better design, retrofits, and maintenance. Resilience is the most fiscally conservative choice we can make. It saves money, safeguards people, and keeps economies running. So let's fund resilience and not disaster, in line with the theme of today's event. With gratitude, thank you so much for our speakers. Thank you to Arise for the partnership. To our speakers from NEO, QB Insurance, and Habitat for Humanity, Bamberton Development, as well as DM Wenceslao Associates Incorporated. And of course, we also thank DFAT for catalytic donor support that's allowing us to continue implement Building Resilience Index for those countries like the Philippines and the Pacific that need it the most. Their partnership is accelerating real resilience on the ground. Developers and owners, so let's start registering projects on the BRI website, resilienceindex.org. Banks and investors, let's create those products to incentivize resilience. For insurance, let's continue collaborating and getting those premium down. And for governments and partners, let's create an enabling environment. So if we can measure it, we can finance it, we can insure it, and deliver it at scale. Let's go and fund resilience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Angelo Tan, for that insightful synthesis and thoughtful reflections that you have truly tied together the key messages from today's webinar. To bring us to a close, it is my honor to welcome Vice Admiral Alexander P. Pama, a distinguished leader as former Undersecretary of the Office of Civil Defense and currently a member of the Arise Global Board and DRR consultant of SM Prime Holdings Incorporated. Vice Admiral Pama's extensive experience in disaster risk reduction, national security, and resilience advocacy across both public and private sectors makes him uniquely qualified to provide the closing message for this milestone event. Please join me in warmly welcoming Vice Admiral Alexander Pama. Apologies, sir.
Thank you very much, Shanna, for that very kind introduction. My colleagues, as we close today's important discussion, let us be reminded that resilience is not built in the aftermath of disasters. It is built before they strike. In today's webinar, our most significant takeaway, as I have seen it and heard it, is that the Building Resilience Index, or BRI, gives us a powerful, practical tool to make that vision a reality. By helping us measure, strengthen, and certify how safe, sustainable, and disaster-ready our buildings truly are. It is more than a rating system, actually. It's a call to action in the bigger picture. It helps us to invest wisely, plan strategically, and ensure that every peso spent on infrastructure translates into protection of lives, livelihoods, and communities. It bridges science and engineering with empathy, turning technical standards into a shield of safety. Our speakers and panelists have eloquently shared with us a common message that stands out clearly. Building resilience is not a single act. It's a journey of maturity, collaboration, and accountability. Business-wise, it is definitely not an extraneous and unnecessary expense, but an essential and judicious investment. The Building Resilience Index gives us a measurable, transparent way to ensure that our infrastructure can stand strong against the shocks and stresses of disasters. It is a tool that translates resilience into clear, actionable benchmarks for safer, smarter, and more sustainable construction. And I could even add as a good investment. It is a move from rebuilding to rebuilding right the first time or at the get-go, as mentioned earlier. The success of today's activity has definitely given us more inspiration and motivation to carry on the task to scale the effort in furthering the agenda for a wider acceptance and adoption of the BRI as a tool for better and resilient infrastructures. Its adoption and implementation cannot be more appropriately and timely in consideration of this year's International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction theme of, and I quote, funding resilience, not disasters. Let's continue to work together, government, private sector, communities, and other sectors to make BRI adoption the new norm, not the exception. Because when our infrastructures stand firm, our economy, our people, and our nation stand firm with it. And to further our efforts at infrastructure resilience, today's webinar will jumpstart our continuing efforts not only to scale our adoption and use of BIR, but also to find more related tools and processes to augment and complement it to achieve a more comprehensive resilience infrastructure systems. To give you an idea, at this point, we're already looking forward at having more activities in collaboration with other possible tools that we can find to be able to collaborate this with the BRI to come up with a more extensive resilience tools. And before I close this webinar, allow me on behalf of the ARISE Global Board to express our appreciation to ARISE Philippines, the International Finance Corporation, both its Philippines and main office, the NEO group of companies, even as I also acknowledge the invaluable support of our event partners for the successful conduct of this webinar. Allow me also to give a shout out to Ms. Regina Inay Hing for her commendable help in this seminar. And of course, I would like to commend and express our thanks and appreciation to the speakers, panelists, and participants in this webinar. To all of you, well done, and congratulations to all, and let's have a resilient future here in the Philippines. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sir Alex. And once again, thank you everyone who joined us today for this important webinar on Building Resilience Index. Your active participation and engagement have made this event truly meaningful. So as we officially close this webinar, please remember to complete the evaluation form to receive your certificate of participation. That will be signed by ARISE Philippines, IFC, and NEO. Your feedback for this event is invaluable to us as we strive to improve future events. On behalf of our organizers and partners, it is a privilege to have you with us. Thank you and stay safe and have a resilient day ahead. We have also indicated our link for the ARISE Philippines Facebook account. May we request everyone to kindly follow and like that page. This is where we post most of our activities, whether it's pre-conduct or after-conduct posting. So if you're interested to join our different activity, it's not limited with webinar. We also do face-to-face events. Please do not hesitate to follow us in our Facebook page. And with that, thank you so much. Maraming salamat po. This is Hannah Escamilla from ARISE Philippines, your MC signing off. Congratulations, everyone. To all our panelists, thank you so much for being here with us, Ms. Regina, and of course, from the team of Ms. Pearl, Sir Angelo, and to our speakers, thank you so much, po. We will be contacting you via email for the post activities. Thank you.
Thank you all. Well done.
Thank you. See you, Ahmed, later.
See you. All right. Thank you, Hannah.